Hi, and welcome back to No Cabin Fever today. With us today, we have Matthias Gaiser from K15T, and he will tell us a little bit about Sync or Swim, 5 ways to bring your projects together. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Matthias.
Thank you, Daniel, for moderating here, and welcome everyone to my talk here. I'm starting the slides, so you should be able to see them right now. So welcome to this talk. I'm Matthias Gaiser from K15T. I'm a software engineer there, and I worked a lot on our issue sync app, backbone issue sync for JIRA in the past years. I got to know various scenarios where people wanted to collaborate across JIRA instances. So that's also what I would like to talk about today. You probably know the situation. You want to work together with another company, and maybe you're both working in JIRA, but how do you bring your JIRA projects together? How do you ensure that communication is running smoothly between the teams? People are used to work in their own environment. They're used to their own settings. They don't want to log into yet another system. So how do you solve that? Of course, the simplest solution would probably be you just copy and paste the changes to the other system. A lot of people do that, because that's what kind of works, but no, it's error prone and time consuming. So you don't really want to do that. So why don't you sync rather? Why don't you just sync your issues and don't swim in the dark without knowing the state of your partner and not drowning in manual updating issues back and forth? So automated synchronization takes away this manual and error prone work. Your partner is always up to date, and so are you. There are multiple issue sync apps in the marketplace. I'll concentrate on backbone issue sync in this presentation because that's the one I know the best. And in general, the examples should also be possible to do with other apps. I point out exclusive differences, which I'm aware of. So let's have a look at the examples. Example number 1. An insurance company wants to connect with their software provider. So they want to be informed about the current state of all the to-dos of the software provider. They don't want to share all issues though. So but they want to work on some tasks themselves. So for some only, they would need the help by their software provider. And the software provider, obviously, they like to keep in their own environment, in their own JIRA, to keep it also simple for their employees. So what solution did they come up with? They installed backbone issue sync on both JIRA instances and had an automated issue synchronization. In order to share the progress, they mapped the workflow statuses between the two instances. So for example, you can see here to do. That's the same status. They mapped also like the green statuses, done and deployed. And all the yellow statuses from the right-hand side, they mapped just like all to the in progress step to the left side in order to like still have a mapping between the different workflows. In order to, because they didn't want to sync all issues, they needed to limit the issues. And that's what they just did with defining a JIRA query language statement, so a JQL statement, and that's selecting the set of issues which should be synchronized. In this use case, it was just like the component should be software, and then it was synchronizing with the software provider. Example number 2. A small consulting company wants to synchronize with a big bank. The main need for the consultants is good communication, both internally, externally. So they want to make sure that the internal comments stay internal and that the external ones are actually being shared with the bank. The bank, on the other hand, is quite restrictive in allowing to install apps in their JIRA. So there's not the usual issue sync case possible where you just install the app in both instances. What did they do? They installed backbone issue sync here in the left-hand side in the JIRA software and used Backbone's remote license to still connect with the other JIRA. No need to install anything in the JIRA core. on the right-hand side. Yeah, but they can still use the whole synchronization functionality. In order to discuss comments internally and externally, they use the standard JIRA comment restrictions. So you can see that highlighted here on the right-hand side. If they write a public comment without any restriction, it would be synchronized over to the other project. If they restrict it to that internal group, for example, then it would not be synchronized to the other side. As a third example, we have an automotive company. Like this one is even more restrictive, I would say. Like the JIRA of this automotive company is not accessible outside of the company's network. And the same is true for the supplier. The supplier is also locked down, kind of, so the JIRAs are not accessible by each other. The automotive company still wants to see the progress of the provider. Obviously, they want to have the automated synchronization there. And also, in order to maintain data integrity, this automotive company wanted to make sure that the partner fields, like the fields with information from the partner, should not be editable by their own employees, in order so that no one makes accidentally or intentional changes to the data supplied by the supplier. So how did they solve that use case? First of all, they had here the JIRAs are not accessible. So they needed to make sure that that they still can communicate around it. To work around this firewall issue, they exchange the data via the file share. So the issue sync app on the left-hand side in the red JIRA will export all the changes to that file share. The issue sync app on the right-hand side would then read the data from the file share and would upload it in there. So this way, it's still possible to exchange that data. They could have also chosen email, but for their solution, they already had some file shares in place, so that was the easier solution for them. About this partner fields, that's maybe a bit more technical. So if you're a JIRA admin, you might know what I'm talking about. If not, maybe you just skip that part, but I'll tell you what's that about. So in order to update fields, these fields have to be on the edit screen of that project. However, if the fields are on the edit screen, everyone who can update that issue can now edit the synchronized fields as well. And so it's not only updatable by the synchronization. They use now an advanced setting of backbone in this use case with a transition screen, so that they configured backbone to only edit the issue via special transition. And therefore, all fields which should be synchronized were only present on this transition screen instead of like the usual edit screen. So this way, the edit screen can stay nice and clean with no partner fields on it, and the data integrity is still guaranteed. It's quite a special use case, but I'm talking about real life examples, what we have. As an example number 4, we have here a scenario with a JIRA service desk and a JIRA software. So first level support team in the this JIRA service desk wants to collaborate with their development team in the JIRA software. They want to connect to their in-house development team. The service desk agent want to easily escalate tickets to the development team when they need help. But the developers don't want to take care to word every comment exactly so that it's understandable by the customer. So they prefer to have like internal comments, which is fine to be seen by the agents, so that the agent does know what he can recommend to the customer. So they also set up a synchronization between their projects. And now when a ticket is created, let's say fire broke out and they need some help, they escalate it maybe then to the development team using that button on the issue, escalate it to the second level. The issue gets automatically synchronized to the development team's JIRA. And here the developer sees the ticket and he can write some comment here in JIRA software. Oh yeah, simply take the fire extinguisher maybe. This comment is then synchronized back to the service desk. the service desk agent can see that comment. It's an internal comment, so the developer just didn't need to take care of the exact words, and the agent can now actually recommend a really fitting action to the customer, maybe not only telling him, oh, take the fire extinguisher, but maybe, hey, there's one in a floor above you, and so he can really hopefully extinguish his fire in time. And hopefully the agent doesn't need to ask for help for topics like that. As a number 5 example, my last one here, it doesn't look like an issue sync scenario, but it actually is. So if you're in product development, you often want to be transparent so that your customers should be able to watch or vote or comment on an issue. You want to get the feedback on the features you've planned with you've planned in your product. But you only want to share some issues with your customers, and maybe you have some marketing to do or some cleanup tasks in your JIRA project, which should be kept private. So you could use maybe some issue security levels, but that also has some drawbacks, yeah, to that you always only can make the whole issue visible or not. And also the requirement here is like to have private comments should not be visible, so that you can freely talk about like internal things and external things. So what can you do in order to have that scenario? We are actually doing that for ourselves as well. Like that's how we use Backbone. We are having an internal JIRA software project. So in our internal JIRA, which is not accessible by everyone, we're having a project for every product. And in our external JIRA, this is accessible by everyone. We have external projects per product as well. And then we set up a synchronization between these issues. We limit the shared issues with a JQL I've shown earlier, so that we also have like only like publicly visible issues should be actually public. And then we have this synchronized to public project button. So the agents can simply, or like everyone can then simply click on that button, and then it's being synchronized to the public and being kept in sync. Furthermore, there's, for the comment visibility, this time we chosen another approach than that I showed before. In order to not sync private comments to the external project, we've just chosen that comments from the external project are only synced to the internal project and not the other direction. So you still get the feedback from all customers around there, but you don't accidentally share some information. If we want to share some information there, we actually jump to the external project and still comment there. That made it easier in our use case, but that's often how it is. Your use cases are always different, and the process which fits to you. This was a fast run through some of these issue sync scenarios. Of course, every scenario is different, and also the scenarios I've shown can be combined. I'm happy to also talk about your scenario either here in the questions and answers now, or also later on. Yeah, give me your question. I can also just already read out the questions which have been submitted here. Stefan also submitted a question about, are you considering to expand your functionality to Confluence down the road? For example, Backbone page sync for Confluence. Actually, that's an interesting question, and we had some hackathon projects about that. So our internal hackathon, to make that possible. The most challenging part in that was merge conflicts always. In JIRA, that's quite easy to solve because you have like different fields of the issue, and there's not that much merge conflicts in place. In Confluence, that was for us right now the main blocker. So we are not having that really on our roadmap. Not saying that we don't do that, but yeah, for most people, a publish approach is enough. So they rather publish data from the Confluence to another Confluence and don't have a real bidirectional synchronization in place. That's what you can do, for example, with our scroll versions and also with a couple of other apps in the marketplace. There's also another question about if we consider to expand our functionality to other tracking systems as well. So Backbone is using for GitHub, for example. We also don't have concrete plans here right now. We actually are concentrating really on making this really good for JIRA and making it not like only a limited subset, which is available in all issue sync solutions. So we are really more concentrating on JIRA on this use case. If you have any more questions, please speak up. Happy to answer them.
So if there are no more questions, then thank you very much for your contribution and your very insightful talk today, and also the demo of the different use cases. I guess that there was a lot of very good reception to it. And thanks again to everyone who tuned in today, and hope to see you back tomorrow for a talk by Mattermost, John Thompson, Taming the DevOps Toolchain. So tune in again tomorrow. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.